There is a place on Earth that most people will never think about. No skyscrapers, no famous landmarks, no giant cities, just a narrow stretch of water between Iran and Oman. And yet this small passage helps keep the modern world alive. It is called the Strait of Hormuz. Every single day, enormous tankers carrying oil and natural gas pass through this corridor on their way to Asia, Europe, and beyond. If something disrupts that flow, even briefly, the effects spread almost instantly across the global economy. Fuel prices rise, shipping costs increase, markets react, governments panic. And the strange part is this: in an age of satellites, artificial intelligence, and advanced technology, the world still depends on geography that cannot be changed. Imagine standing on the bridge of a supertanker at night. Below you are millions of barrels of oil. The engines rumble deep beneath the deck. Around you, the sea is dark and silent. To one side lies Iran, to the other, Oman. The passage ahead feels tight, almost uncomfortable. Every captain crossing these waters understands one thing: this is not just another shipping route. This is one of the most important choke points on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil trade moves through the Strait of Hormuz. Massive energy exports from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates all rely heavily on this route. Qatar's liquefied natural gas shipments also pass through these waters, supplying energy to countries thousands of kilometers away. That means this narrow corridor affects cities far beyond the Middle East: Tokyo, Seoul, Beijing, Berlin, Warsaw, London. Most people will never see the Strait of Hormuz in person, but millions unknowingly depend on it every single day. And this dependence is not new. For thousands of years, merchants traveled through the Persian Gulf carrying copper, spices, textiles, precious stones, and other valuable goods between civilizations. Long before oil became valuable, this route already connected east and west. Ancient empires understood the importance of these waters. The Persians understood it. The Greeks understood it. The Arab caliphates understood it, and later, European empires understood it too. In the 16th century, the Portuguese Empire expanded deep into the Indian Ocean. Using heavily armed ships, Portugal established control over important maritime trade routes, including Hormuz itself. For decades, Portuguese forts watched over the strait. Ships entering the region paid taxes and duties enforced by naval power. It was one of the earliest examples of a global maritime empire controlling international trade through strategic choke points. But geography creates conflict as easily as it creates wealth. In the early 1600s, Abbas the Great decided to remove Portuguese influence from the region. Persian forces, supported by English naval assistance, expelled the Portuguese from Hormuz in 1622. The struggle for control over this waterway continued because everyone understood the same reality. Control the route, and you influence trade. Influence trade, and you influence power. Centuries later, oil transformed the region into something even more important. The Persian Gulf became one of the world's primary energy centers. Industrial civilization increasingly depended on oil for transportation, manufacturing, electricity, plastics, aviation, and global trade. And much of that oil had to pass through one narrow strip of water. That dependence became dangerously clear during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. As the conflict dragged on, both Iran and Iraq began attacking oil tankers and commercial shipping connected to the other side. The world later called this period the Tanker War. Commercial vessels were struck by missiles, mines, and air attacks. Civilian crews suddenly found themselves trapped inside one of the most dangerous maritime regions on Earth. Hundreds of ships were damaged or attacked during the conflict. Insurance costs for entering the Gulf skyrocketed. Shipping companies became nervous. Energy markets reacted to nearly every incident. And the world learned an important lesson. You do not need to completely close the Strait of Hormuz to disrupt the global economy. You only need to create enough fear. That lesson shaped Iranian military strategy for decades afterward. Iran understood it could never match the full military strength of the United States in a direct naval war. It could not build fleets equal to American aircraft carriers or destroyers. So instead, it focused on asymmetric warfare. Fast attack boats, naval mines, coastal missile systems, drones, mobile launch platforms hidden along the shoreline. Many of these systems are operated or supported by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, often known as the IRGC. The strategy is simple. Do not fight the stronger enemy on equal terms. Make the battlefield chaotic. Make it dangerous. Make every movement expensive. Imagine commanding a massive aircraft carrier entering the Gulf. Your ship is one of the most advanced military systems ever created. It carries thousands of personnel, advanced radar systems, fighter aircraft, and billions of dollars of technology. And suddenly, dozens of small, fast-moving boats begin appearing on radar from multiple directions. Now add anti-ship missiles hidden along the coastline. Add naval mines beneath the water. Add drones overhead. Inside a narrow choke point like Hormuz, even the world's strongest navy must operate carefully. That is why the region remains heavily militarized today. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, constantly monitors the Gulf alongside Allied naval forces. Warships, submarines, aircraft, and surveillance systems operate in the region year-round. And yet, military power alone cannot eliminate uncertainty. In 2018, after the United States withdrew from the Iranian nuclear agreement, tensions in the region rose sharply again. Over the following months, commercial tankers were attacked or seized near the Gulf. In 2019, the British-flagged tanker Stena Impero was captured by Iranian forces. The footage spread around the world within hours, and immediately global markets reacted. Oil prices increased, insurance costs rose. Shipping companies became cautious, not because the strait had been permanently blocked, but because the world was reminded how vulnerable it really was. And this raises a difficult question. Why does modern civilization still depend so heavily on one narrow maritime passage? Part of the answer is geography. Alternative pipelines exist, but they cannot fully replace the volume of oil and gas transported through Hormuz every day. Some Gulf countries built routes bypassing the strait, but their capacity remains limited compared to the scale of global energy demand. The world simply built its economic system around these waters. And systems built over decades are difficult to replace quickly. But the story of Hormuz may slowly change in the future. Renewable energy is growing. Electric vehicles are becoming more common. Battery technology continues to improve. Many countries are trying to reduce long-term dependence on fossil fuels. The United States, for example, imports less Middle Eastern oil today than it once did. But the Strait of Hormuz still matters enormously, especially for Asia. Japan, South Korea, and China continue to rely heavily on energy shipments crossing these waters, and because global supply chains are interconnected, disruptions in one region quickly spread everywhere else. A problem in the Gulf can affect factories in Asia, transportation in Europe, and prices in stores across the world. That is the true power of strategic choke points. Tiny places with global consequences. And Hormuz is not the only one. The Suez Canal connects Europe and Asia through the Red Sea. The Strait of Malacca carries a massive portion of Asian trade. The Panama Canal transformed global shipping by linking two oceans. Modern civilization depends on narrow passages far more than most people realize. The world may appear digital and limitless, but beneath everything lies physical geography, ports, pipelines, sea lanes, undersea cables, energy corridors, and somewhere, always, there is another narrow passage holding enormous power over the rest of the world. Perhaps one day, oil will no longer dominate the global economy. But history suggests humanity will simply create new choke points instead, rare earth minerals. semiconductor supply chains, data cables beneath the ocean floor. Civilization always concentrates power somewhere. And somewhere else, another modern Hormuz is already waiting.